To kickstart this segment, as the first speaker of the keynote address, may I request Mr. Avinash Gupta, Managing Director and CEO of Dun & Bradstreet India, to come on stage and share his viewpoints on the BFSI industry and its outlook. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Avinash Gupta.
Good evening, everybody. Good to have you here. And as I've said in a couple of my other events where I've spoken, it's a real pleasure to meet people in person. For a long time we sat at home and really were devoid of the pleasure of meeting in person. So very good that we all could meet, and good to have you all here. This is, I was talking to some of you, this is our annual BFSI and Fintech Summit. And this summit, recognizes the critical role played by the sector in the country's economic growth, capital and job creation, investments, innovation, and international trade. Some of you may have been here before, just before the break, when we unveiled the DNB SIDBI Sustainability Perception Index, which is again a very important thing for us and for SIDBI as well. And it gave me great pleasure when my colleague Hitesh was speaking to both Ravi Tyagi and RK Singh. Way back just before Diwali, we met with SIDBI. We thought we'd do the index. We launched it in Coimbatore as a kickstart with the MSME sector, which is very close to both SIDBI and to us. And I'm glad today that we had the first release of the index. And I guess this is a progression which we are making in many things to come. So I guess today's been a very busy day for some of you who've been here all day. There have been a lot of panels right through on a bunch of subjects which all concerning the sector, with lots of insights, with lots of updates on the current state of affairs in the industry and the prospects. Other key highlights of today's event include what we're going to do now, which is to release the premier and most referred publication of DNB, the India's leading BFSI and FinTech companies 2023. And obviously, last but not the least, have the awards, which is a pleasure to give out to the award winners. So big thank you again to all the dignitaries who've come here today, and to obviously members of the audience who've taken time to spend a large part of the day here with us. Every year, we try to identify a central theme, which is extremely critical and current to the BFSI fraternity. This year, the central theme is the reshaping of, for balanced growth of the sector, what's happening in the wider ecosystem. And clearly, as we all know, GDP growth has direct impact on the BFSI and FinTech sector. The Indian GDP started to decline just before COVID, I guess, a couple of years before COVID, driven by a series of events, I guess mega events, including demonetization, the wider credit and liquidity issues led by events such as ILFS, and finally, of course, the COVID crisis. The impact was visible with the industry witnessing low credit growth, asset quality going south, and of course, having the impact on profits as well. The situation started improving in fiscal year 22. And progress was clearly visible, which most of you in the room will know, even in the first 9 months of the current fiscal we are in, with stronger balance sheets and better bottom line. The crisis provided us with an opportunity to introspect on various grounds, including various improving credit norms, lending mechanism, risk management practices, adoption to digital, and something very close to heart on the ESG aspects of what impacts the industry and on financing itself. All of these points which I talked about have helped reshape the Indian BFSI sector. As the industry works towards these challenges, we should keep our key objective firmly in focus, which is clearly to have growth, balanced growth, but also sustainable growth. Maybe it'll give me an opportunity to walk you through some of the things which have happened in the sector on a very holistic basis. Fiscal 22 was marked by strong, broad-based recovery, as I said, in the economic activities, which benefited the sector. I'll touch upon a few. benign lending rates, improving domestic demand, and structural changes in global supply chain due to China plus one, I guess, which has impacted just about everybody. And that led clearly to increase in the banking credit to this industry sector, which grew at the fastest pace in the last 8 years. Indian scheduled commercial banks not only witnessed strong credit growth, but also remarkable asset quality improvement. Gross NPAs declined, net NPAs declined by 70 basis points at the end of March 2022. Enhanced credit monitoring processes coupled with portfolio diversification help the banks arrest slippages and therefore support in strengthening the balance sheets. The profitability of the Indian banking sector improved in FY22, as I mentioned earlier. The return on assets, return on equity, all improved to levels last observed in the middle of the last decade, effectively. The new business premiums, looking at the wider sector, the new business premiums for life insurance grew at approximately 13%. In FY22 reached 3.1 trillion rupees, with the trend of the private sector, interestingly, outpacing the public sector. FY22 witnessed strong growth in asset management industry, driven by retail investors' monies towards equity and ETF asset classes. Interestingly, as most of you will know, 1 out of every 3 folios added during the history of the AMC world was done in FY22. The overall asset size grew by 26% to reach record levels of approximately $38 trillion. So a broad overall positive impact right across the sector. On the negative side, I guess this year what's going to happen and what's been happening for some time is on the fintech space. We touched upon and talked about the fintech sector a fair bit, but what obviously on the funding on the fintech side, there was a decline of approximately 47%, and obviously a decrease also in the funding rounds. Now, there is clearly a funding winter coming for many parts of the economy, definitely for the fintechs, and I guess there'll be a shakeout there, there'll be consolidation there, and it's a space to watch out for. Despite that, there will be a lot of very significant impact brought through by the fintech sector, which are done in Bradstreet. We work very closely, and we believe that we also would like to evolve more to a fintech. We are a data analytics company globally, but if we can do more on the more quick side, on the rapid side, do things more quickly like the fintechs can do, we'll be a much more powerful player in this space. M&A deal value for banking and the broader sector was approximately $10 billion, although largely around one very large deal, which was Piramal Capital acquisition of a $5 billion DHFL. And obviously, the sector also saw a very large IPO of Life Insurance Corporation of India in May 2022. The largest listing on the stock market for a very small percentage of the equity, 3.5%, at a value of close to around $2.5 billion. So I guess lots of good things. The market can take $2.5 billion of equity, although in the pricing you can debate, but the money did get raised and get funded. So coming back to as part of this initiative today, Dun & Bradstreet for a very long time has been capturing, and this sector, the BFSI sector, is a very large part of our client base globally, is large part of our industry globally, as to what's happening in the pulse and the dynamics through this premier publication, which is the India's leading BFSI and FinTech companies 2023, which we'll unveil shortly. This publication provides in-depth views about the Indian BFSI and FinTech landscape, including views of industry experts, listings of leading BFSI and FinTech companies. The publication serves as a ready reckoner in your research, our research and analysis of leading BFSI and FinTech companies in India. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are hosting the 15th edition of the BFSI and FinTech Awards, which we're very proud of. Year on year, these awards have been recognized as one of the best in the industry, and we do many of these sectors, but the BFSI, as I said, is very close sector to our heart. This year, we have introduced new categories to recognize the good work in areas such as support to MSMEs, very important clearly in the growth of the country, very important in the entire ecosystem, customer experience, product innovation, and technology initiatives. Sifting through all of these nominations to identify the true gems is not a small task. We were lucky, we had very good members of the jury. One of them who is here, Mr. Gopal Murli Bhagat, who's the Deputy Chief Executive of the IBA. The couple of the other, Mr. Uma Shankar Paliwal and Mrs. Indrani Banerjee, we were here earlier in the day. They spent a meticulous amount of time pulling it together. I was talking to some of you earlier in the evening. I was lucky I got invited to be the jury member for the Business Today Awards, Banker of the Year Awards, which happened actually earlier in the year. So we sat in December. Mr. Kamath was the chair of the awards. Mr. Purwar, as I was saying, was there, and me, and there were two other people. So I've sat as a jury on the other side, so I know how challenging and difficult it is to pull winners together, or separate really with very fine tooth comb. So thank you for your time on doing that, and I hope you will see that the diligence has been very proper. As BFSI companies accelerate their focus on digital transformation, digitization, and robotic process automation, there is clearly a more increased demand for data and analytics-driven products and solutions. As I mentioned, keeping in line with these needs and trends, we ourselves, Dun & Bradstreet, have enabled access to all this data through using APIs and other data blocks, credit decisioning systems to partner with all of you as we all go through this journey of digitization and making things happen faster and with the least amount of cost and effort. For some of you who know us better and maybe have known us long enough, we have a long history of working, as I said, with the BFSI sector, both large and small. We're kind of lucky, I guess, maybe like one of you in the room, State Bank, we've been around for 180 years or so, so it's too long a time maybe. We all started out a long time ago, and as we say in our coffee table books, we've had the luxury of having 4 US presidents work for Dun & Bradstreet, including Abraham Lincoln. So as I keep telling my colleagues, if you were working like 160 years ago, your colleague would have been Abraham Lincoln, which is kind of a crazy thought. But, so we guys, some of us have had that, I guess, good fortune of having a lot of legacy, a lot of systems, a lot of reach that enables us to do things across the world with speed and with the same kind of standards which we are lucky to have. So clearly, from our point of view, we are very keen to work with all of you to make the right kind of data-driven decisions by empowering you with the variety of data and all the products and solutions which we bring to bear. Our coverage of business entities across the world is approximately 500 million. So in our data cloud, we have data on 500 million entities, what we call the Dunsified universe, the Duns number. That's a very large number. And my colleagues in India too we've done a super job in the last 2-3 years of making the Duns universe in India, as we call it, 27 million entities. So that's a very large number for India as well, and we hope that we can improve the quality of the data for all those 27 million entities as we grow through either static, dynamic, and everything else, which gives you the ability to pull that data, pull the insights from the data, and use that to get to the business decisions you need to take when you're doing your business. So I think, we've done that through using some of our old tools, some of our new tools, which we call the credit decisioning system. And obviously, we are very keen to provide fully holistic solutions and services like monitoring, early warning signals, and can partner with you guys in terms of, customer prospecting and onboarding journeys as well. So, clearly, I think, the broader vision for the country, the broader vision to what we all hope will happen the next, 2 decades or a little bit more than that when we run up to the century. Clearly, this is going to be a good time to not only be here possibly, and specifically in your sector, in the BFSI sector, there is hopefully a lot of healthy growth to come, and we hope we can be a partner in that journey. So maybe with that, I'd like to congratulate all the award winners and all the companies that have featured in the India leading BFSI and FinTech companies of 2023. We look forward to your continued participation and support and patronage. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the dignitaries over the day who honored us with their presence despite their schedules and despite the traffic of Bombay, and thank all our partners for making this a huge success. And last but not the least, thank you for all of you for coming here, taking the time out. We'll run through what we need to do in terms of the awards, and I hope all of you will stay for dinner as well. So with that, maybe I'll conclude, and maybe we'll have a chance to catch up over dinner, and talk about some of the most scary bits which are happening in the wider world around, which some of us we talked about during the day around AI, AML, and all the things around blockchain, which when I think just before the session, which was happening before the break, I look at this website, which is, it's called, I think, Will a Robo Take My Job? Has anybody seen that website? If you look it up, I think it's there. It's called Will a Robo Take My Job? And you can look up a job and the job will exist or not. I started my life as a credit analyst. And when you say credit analyst, that website says you're doomed. 100% that your job's not going to be there. So I guess in this great journey which we are going to go through, a lot of things are going to change. And we hope at Dun & Bradstreet we can help you with managing that change, which are data, insights, and analytics. So thank you once again for your time. Much appreciated. And I will request my MC here to take over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta.